So everybody kind of knows already that wireless shifting has been around for a very long time. SRAM Axis is the one that kind of primarily pushed this out into the market. Well, now we finally have other competitors on the market. Some of you may be familiar with WheelTop. I installed a WheelTop setup on my gravel bike just a few months ago. WheelTop also wanted me to try out their mountain bike version. This is the EDS-OX. This will work for upwards of a 52 tooth cassette all the way down to a 10 tooth. So you're gonna get a really wide range, and the whole setup is very, very simple and also comes in at an insane price compared to the SRAM Axis setup. For right around $360, you're gonna get everything that you see here. That includes the rear derailleur, the shifter, and the charging cable. We're gonna go ahead and dive into this. And while we do this, I'm going to uninstall the Dior XT setup that is currently on my Polygon Siskiyou T9. So whenever you get the EDS-OX setup, you are gonna get it in this nice little box here. Nothing super special about it, but it is really well padded on the inside. The first thing that I noticed is a rarity these days anytime you buy any products, and that is an actual instruction manual. Now, the other things that you're gonna get included in the box is, of course, the EDS-OX rear derailleur. This is super nice. It's made with aluminum and some plastic. It's got a massive 800 milliamp hour battery in here that they claim will get upwards of 20,000 shifts. And actually inside the app, you can see how many shifts you have left based off of their estimator, which is really cool. I was looking at that, just shifting through it, and it was counting down from 20,000, which is pretty impressive. And whenever you compare this to a SRAM battery that you get on the SRAM Axis setup, yeah, granted, these are replaceable on SRAMs, but they're so much smaller. You're not gonna get anywhere near 20,000 shifts. You're always gonna wanna carry an extra one in your backpack. But with the WheelTop setup, it's a permanently mounted battery here that can be replaced via removing some screws, but it's not a quick replace like you would see on the SRAM stuff, but the battery is gigantic. A couple things that I was noticing on this, the high-low screws are nicely placed on the top of the rear derailleur, easily able to tell which one actually is the high-low screw. Sometimes you get derailleurs and they're stacked on top, and it can be confusing as to which one is high-low. And then back here, you do get a B screw to be able to fine tune the tension on this, to be able to get it to where it'll shift properly through all of your gears. Looking on the back, you do have that magnetic connector, similar to what we saw on the other WheelTop setup that I put on my gravel bike. Now, this will only connect into this one way. You'll notice whenever you try to put this on here, it'll actually push away if the cable is facing down. The cable is facing up, it does click in, and it does feel a little bit stronger than what I experienced with the gravel setup. So I think there's gonna be less chance of this actually kind of coming unconnected. It's not a super strong connection to where if this was hooked to anything, it would cause any damage. It'll pull away real easily, kind of like the MagSafe stuff that we see on some Apple products. But the weird thing is that the indicator light that this is charging is up top here, and the cable kind of blocks it. So whenever you're looking at this, you can't look at it from directly behind the bike. You have to look at it from beside the bike to be able to see if this is actually charging. But it is a massively long cable, so you can pretty much just plug this in an outlet in your garage or wherever you store your bikes, and it'll more than likely reach to your actual setup. But again, you don't have to charge this very often because of that huge 800 milliamp hour battery. And also looking at the cage here on the rear derailleur, it's a nice finished aluminum look. Looks really, really sturdy. The pulleys on here spin just as free as what they do on, say, the Dior XT or the SRAM GX stuff. And being that this is the off-road version, this does have a clutch built into it. However, it doesn't have a release for the clutch. I do wish it had a release for the clutch, because I like whenever you can release it to make it a little bit easier to get your back wheel on and off, or where you could lock it into place, kind of like what SRAM offers on theirs. But overall, this thing comes in at an incredibly light weight. They're claiming 400 grams. I measured it a couple times, came in right around 401 to 403, all depending on what my scale wanted to do. But that's significantly lighter than the SRAM Axis GX with the battery installed. This one came in well over 450 grams. And then also the little shifter that you get here is a little bit heavier than the SRAMs, but still overall this weight combined with the derailleur and the rear shifter is only 5 grams more than what the SRAM GX rear derailleur is by itself. So this setup is actually extremely light considering they've got a massive battery on this. Now looking at the shifter, honestly, it is not the prettiest shifter that I have ever seen. I mean, when comparing it to the pod style shifter that SRAM has, this just looks a little bit more refined, but this one probably is going to be extremely durable based off of the way that it looks like it's manufactured. You do have a coin-sized battery replacement back here, just like on any other wireless shifter. And then also, you're going to get these tactile style buttons that have different texture on each one. You've got the little one up here that's kind of dipped down just a little bit. So whenever your thumb is on this, you can really tell which one is up and which one is down. And these do have a real long travel. So whenever you do actually press these, you get a really good click sound and a feeling. This feels a lot more like a standard mechanical shifter than it does an electronic shifter. Now let's talk about a couple of specs really quick. This does come with multiple cage sizes. I got the long cage. This will go all the way up to a 52 tooth, all the way down to a 10 tooth. You can get a medium cage or a short cage. Now this will work all the way down to a 3-speed setup and all the way up to a 14-speed. Now, the rear derailleur is IP67 certified. That means it can be submerged in water for a little while. So creek crossings, things like that, riding in the rain, you don't have to worry about this getting damaged by any water. Now, the actual shifter is a little bit different. It's IP57, which means that it's basically capable of taking on dust and high pressure spray. Now, one thing that's pretty cool about this setup is that they have a really detailed app. This thing will allow you to do so many different things with it. You can fine tune each individual gear. So if you find that your shifting is off just a little bit, say in gear number 8, you can fine tune that. And as far as setting this up, you can micro adjust either from the shifter or you can do it via the app. So that's pretty much all the details on it. We've got the Polygon T9 ready and we're gonna go ahead and start installing this. It should be extremely straightforward as we don't have any cables to run. We just simply mount this up, mount up the shifter, and then make sure that it's adjusted properly and we're good to go. Now, whenever we go to install the shifter, you just use a standard 4mm Allen key. This is pretty common for almost every shifter. This is gonna be on the right side only. This isn't designed to be on any other side. Simply just slide it on, temporarily tighten it, and then we'll put on the brake and then also the grip. And just do your best to kind of get this lined up the way that you would want it, kind of test it out and see where you feel would be best. The nice thing is this is only a 4mm Allen key, so you can carry one with you on a ride and you can make adjustments as needed. And that's it for the handlebars. You're done with the handlebars for right now. Let's move down to the rear derailleur. Now for the rear derailleur, you are gonna need a 5mm Allen key to mount it up to your bike, and you're gonna need a 3mm Allen key for the B screw and for the high-low screw. Let's go ahead and just put this on. It's real simple. You basically have a stop back here, and that stop is going to touch this portion of your rear derailleur. So just make sure you've got that kind of lined up. I usually wind up kind of sticking the cage up a little bit high when I first install it, getting the threads going. And you don't want to use any grease on these threads. This is one that you do not want to add grease to. And that's per the instructions, and just anytime you install a rear derailleur, there's no need to add grease to the threads. Just make sure you hold that up just like that. It'll get to the point where you can kind of let go of it and it'll stop on that stop of the rear derailleur hanger, and you know you're good. You can go ahead and just start threading it down. Now, per WheelTop's instructions, maximum of 10 Newton meters, minimum of 8. They've actually got it labeled right here. I went ahead and just put it at 9, just nice in the middle. And one click is all you need. So the next step in setting up this rear derailleur is to adjust the low screw. This screw right here, which is the one that's closest to you, takes a 3mm Allen key, and it'll touch a little piece of metal in here whenever the derailleur is all the way in the smallest gear. So looking at this, it looks relatively close, but it does seem to be a little bit far on the outside, so we're gonna push it in just slightly. Let's take your 3mm Allen key, and then we're gonna turn that clockwise. So in towards the bike. I think that's pretty good. We can probably fine tune this as needed and then micro adjust it if we need to also. Now the next step I'm gonna do is I'm going to pull this down, and then we're gonna adjust the high screw without the chain on first. So we're gonna go ahead and shift this. But you wanna make sure that you adjust this down, shift all the way to your 12th gear, and you're gonna wanna make sure that this is lined up as best as it can with the biggest gear on your rear cassette. And that looks pretty stinking close, but we're gonna pull it in just a little bit. So now we can go ahead and reinstall our freshly cleaned chain, and then we can get ready to do the final adjustment on this. The adjustment that we're going to need to do is the B screw. As you can see, there's not a lot of tension on the chain, and that's what the B screw is going to offer. You're going to want to get the top pulley on the derailleur within 4 to 10 millimeters of the bottom cog on your rear cassette. Okay, I went ahead and put this up on my stand so I can start shifting through this. Let's go ahead and take the first shift and see how well it jumps to the next gear. I did pretty good without any adjustment. Let's go ahead and see if we can go through the gears. We need to watch the derailleur and the cassette to make sure that they don't collide with each other. So far it's looking okay. Okay, that did pretty good. Wow, that is super fast. And all the way back down. That's all the way through 12 gears. Absolutely amazing. Man, it feels really, really good. Chain tension seems to be right. Got this B screw adjusted. It wasn't too bad. I basically had to back it all the way down and adjust it based off of the bottom cog. Not hard at all. Just make sure that you've got enough tension there. Make sure your high-low screws are set appropriately. No cables. You can micro adjust this, so as you get out and ride, this is such a cool setup. For $359, I think this thing is gonna be pretty impressive. I cannot wait to get out and try this on the trail. So there you go. The EDS-OX from WheelTop is fully set up on my Polygon T9. And I've gotta say, this was extremely easy to set up. Now, granted, I don't have a ton of miles on this bike, so this derailleur hanger was perfectly lined up. I've got a full Shimano setup here, so the drivetrain is dialed in. And with this rear derailleur made by WheelTop, it just paired up absolutely perfectly. And it's almost as light as the Dior XT setup, which is pretty impressive overall. I think that WheelTop is going to be a huge upset to some of these big brands out here over this next year. 2025 is going to be an interesting year for wireless drivetrains, and I think WheelTop is going to be on the top of the food chain for it. The price point, and I think you're going to start seeing these show up in local bike shops and people actually using them. These things are such a good deal. We're just gonna have to see how long they actually last. I've got this on my gravel bike and I've got this on my mountain bike now. So I'm gonna give this a go and we'll see if this is actually worth the value. All right, guys, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me a comment, let me know what you think of this. And as always, get out there and ride your bike.